What was it, do you think, about the blog that resonated with people at the start? How did you even begin to get readers from zero?
Yeah, I think, what happened is, so I had a little bit of a following because of my radio career, and I used to use Twitter back then as well. And so then I started advertising my blog on social media, whether it was on my personal Facebook or Twitter. So people started picking it up. To this day, I don't really know how it took off. It's unclear what happened. But I remember I did radio for so many years. And I remember I was so upset the last day I did a show when I had to quit and move on. And I remember thinking, gosh, I'm never going to be this happy again doing any other job. And I remember I put up the faders dramatically to like this Bombay Viking song, Wo Chali, and I left. And I was like legit upset for many weeks. And then I was still doing the blog. But I remember going to this like neighborhood dive bar and somebody asked me what I do. And I said, well, I write a blog. And they said, hey, what's your name? So I said, Malini. And they had heard of the blog. And I felt that same crazy excitement that I used to feel when I met people and when I told them I was a radio jockey and they said, oh my God, you're that Malini. There's something about that resonating. And I think what really stood out for me is a lesson I learned on radio. My old boss there, Tariq Ansari, told me something amazing. He said, when you're broadcasting on air, and just like in this podcast, you might be broadcasting to millions of people, but everyone who's listening is having a very personal experience with you. 6 people in a car, each one is having an individual equation with the voice they're listening to, which is why we all think that our favorite radio jockeys are so good looking, because in our theater of our mind, we have painted this incredible picture. And I tried to take the same ethos to the blog. So instead of writing like news reports, I would write all my articles as letters to you. And I would address them as I would be addressing a friend with just a little more enthusiasm. My one thing that people told me on radio is pretend like you're talking to your best friend across the mic, but with a little more enthusiasm. And that was my brief for all my shows. And I think that's what I took to the blog. And I remember, and I think this resonates with you. We've grown up all over the world. So we know what India's like, and we know what it's like in other countries. But people have such a small, limited understanding of India. And it's not their fault. They watch National Geographic, they watch Slumdog Millionaire, and then they're surprised that you speak English well, and I remember being in school in Greece in the 5th grade, and someone asked me if I go to school on an elephant. And I was like, that would be amazing. Can you imagine if I rocked up to school on an elephant? But no, that's not how it is. But that's how people, they just don't know. So I kind of wanted the blog to be that as well, sort of a documentation of what modern India is like. Because of course there are villages, of course there's poverty, but there is this whole bustling, new, hustling community of young India. We're the youngest country in the entire world. And there's a lot happening here. So I kind of wanted to document that as well. And so I created this Miss Malini anime that you see on my site, who kind of represents that desi person who danced with reckless abandon at their best friend's wedding, but also loves pop culture and travel and all these things. But I also, felt like it'd be cool to have an anime because she'll age better than I do and I'll leave a legacy behind. She'll be that brand that's the equivalent of, whether you're Oprah or Ellen, because we don't have that in our country. We have Amitabh Bachchan and we have Chota Bheem. You don't have that middle layer. So yeah, I think that was the thinking behind it. And I feel like it resonated. I guess there were a couple of turning points where, since I started off with Bollywood, I remember there was a friend of mine who was visiting from the US, and he happened to have been on a Lufthansa first class flight back from the US. And he was like, we were eating dinner and he's like, oh, I saw, and he's half Indian. And he's like, oh, I saw Katrina Kaif on my flight and she was with somebody. And I remember dropping my fork and I was like, with who? Because this is what I write about. And he's like, oh, I don't know, some guy. And then I Googled him and I was like, tell me who it was. And it was Ranbir Kapoor. And this is before they had started talking about their relationship at all. So I managed to write this piece about it and everyone was like so shocked. How did you know? And then it turned out it was true. So that other people started picking up content from my site and like little things. And I always tell everyone the best things happen on a Tuesday night at 3 a.m. because I was out with some friends and we happened to walk into a bar and it was 3 by the time we're leaving. The lights come on, we're ready to go home. And suddenly the lights go off and the music starts again because Salman Khan has walked in. And he goes to the bar and hands his credit card and tells everyone to take their cards back and starts handing out bottles of champagne. And we took pictures with him. And we were the only ones who had those pictures. So the next day, all these tabloids have taken pictures of my blog and said, look, this is covered. So it's also right place, right time, which comes back to, yes, it helped being in Bombay to do this. But I think those might have been also some turning points where people were like, how did she know that? I mean, it was all a lot of blind luck, but I guess that's how it happens. It's also because it's overnight, right? Like suddenly I have information I can post tomorrow, as like today, as opposed to wait for the print run.
Subscribe for more of this good stuff. See y'all in the next one.